Hi. Often in the field of personal and spiritual growth, the word judging often comes up with a lot of negative notation. When we judge, we are judged. Judging means that we are wrong and that it's all ego. That's more or less the thought around that. And this is probably true, but since judging is an ability to evaluate and define, how can we avoid judgment since it is necessary in everyday life? And above all, how can we judge without hurting others in communication, which is the most important aspect of all? Let's see how in this video. The reason why we judge is to separate ourselves from the other, feeling better. We denigrate the person because it is a mechanism that strengthens our self-esteem. But a self-esteem that is based on fear, insecurity, and weakness, and which draws its strength in belittling others or the world in general. No, depends on what we're talking about. But we can say that the more we judge, the bigger our problem is with our self-esteem. In fact, whoever judges says more about himself than he says about the other person. You already heard that, right? So, judging is an ego trap that is difficult, really difficult not to fall into, and is based on a lack of humility, sensitivity, and listening and knowledge. We often talk about someone without knowing him or her well, or when we think we do, but we don't really listen because we are too convinced in our position, in our convictions. So how can we judge someone if we do not know his story, his past, why he became this way, and how much he suffered in the past, and consequently how much harm can we do by criticizing him? We should learn to think something like, I don't agree with what she said or did, but I do not judge as I ignore all the reasons, especially the deepest ones. But now this is not the way to judge without hurting others. This is just the consideration to have before possibly expressing a judgment. So being more, attentive. The aspect of judgment that we cannot avoid is that judgment is absolutely necessary to make choices in life. Everything is based on judgment. When we don't like a thing or a person, this is based on our personal judgment, which then determines the choice, our choice, and subsequently the action. So the judge does not necessarily always have a negative connotation. Quite the contrary, it is inevitable to judge. All we do it all the day, every day. It's often unconscious. And thanks to this judging, we can also describe how to make decisions according to our evaluations and preferences. And this is true in many circumstances, which, like when we buy a dress and we judge it as ugly or beautiful. Same thing when we buy a fruit, does it smell good? It looks nice or not? When we check the weather and evaluate whether to go out or not, and we judge the weather, and so on and so on. So maybe someone will disagree because you might say that judgment exists only when you hurt someone or speak superficially about someone. Otherwise, you can call it a preference or a taste, Okay, that can be. But let's take another example. We just met a person and decided we don't want him or her to be part of our friendships. We have not communicated it to him, so up to now, no judgment expressed. But within ourselves, we have made evaluations, observations, or judgments, as I call them, on his, her behavior, and that behaviors that we did not like, and then we decided not to develop a relationship with this person. And this decision arose from our inner judgments. So it is inevitable to judge, even if we do not say it in words, because it is necessary to be able to make daily choices. So what changes between judging a rainy day as a bad day and judging a person as bad? That the rain does not take offense, while a person probably does. The fact does not depend on whether we judge a thing that has no feelings or a person who has feelings. It depends on what part of us expresses it, how we express it, and the person's emotional charge on a certain subject. Each person has his own emotional charge according to the judgment. So saying to a person, "you are irresponsible," may resonate and the person may feel hurt or feel attacked because they lived it badly, traumatically in childhood. Or maybe there is no reaction at all, absolutely zero, because in that aspect, the person has nothing to heal within himself. But this, does not mean that we can freely judge all the time, sometimes disguising this attitude with, I'm going to say it for your own good, And if he reacts badly, that is his problem, not mine. Now, this thought or attitude is of the ego, which takes no responsibility. So remember that where we don't have no responsibility in our communication, there's something that's not okay. If instead we want to learn how to judge without hurting, we must always keep in mind that we do not know all the wounds of the person in front of us. Therefore, it is our responsibility to be respectful, aware, and sensitive while we communicate. We must always keep in mind the uniqueness of each person and that we do not know his points of emotional charge or his unhealed wounds. So we must talk less and listen more and learn to express judgments in a healthier way. Okay, so enough with the theory. In the second part of this video, we will learn how to express a criticism or a judgment without hurting others.